Okay, we're going to work on the Lemoyne Star. This is one of my favorite ones. It is a little bit tricky, but it's a lot of fun, and I really like the way this one looks whenever it's all completed. You do have a template in your packet if you want to cut out the individual star pieces and then sew those together. This method is using like a strip piecing method. So I've got the strip for my star points is cut at 3 inches wide for each strip. I've got a green and a red here, a dark and a medium, and I seamed it on one side. Before I cut my fabrics, everything has been starched. You want to starch the fabric to make this block. The starch will help to control stretching and help to keep the pieces straight and stiff as you stitch it, so that you won't have a problem with it going down in the hole, or you just won't have a lot of problems with it because you are working with bias edges on this. So what I did was I pieced my two strips together on one side. I only set the seam. I just used the hot iron and I just pressed it to set the seam. You do not go and press it open or anything. We'll do that a little bit in another step. And then instead of cutting out each individual piece with a template, one seam is already stitched, and it's stitching two pieces together, so you're cutting down that one step by doing it this way. We're going to use our ruler, and you're going to use the 45-degree line that's on here. You're going to use the 45-degree marking, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your seam down along the bottom, and you're going to line the 45 line up across that bottom edge of your strip, and you're going to slide it down a bit so that you can get a full cut on this. I'm in probably about 2 inches or so. So I've got it here. I slid it off. I'm trying to keep it all straight. And I'm going to make my first cut. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take that one out of the way so I can see. But I'm going to slide my ruler over. And you're going to be looking at your segments on the ruler, and you want to get 3. Keep your 45-degree line across the bottom so that you've got it straight. Line up the 3. So I'm counting on the ruler 3 like this. Even though it's at an angle, you're still going to count 3. So you want 3 inches here that you're cutting your segment at. So line your ruler up along the bottom. Get it all straight there. And then you're going to cut 4 segments running down this length. And that is how you will make the pieces for your Lemoyne Star. Get this all cut here. So each time when you move it, you want to realign, make sure you're following that 45-degree line across the bottom. So I've got my 4 pieces cut, and you can see this is already pieced together. So you're cutting out one step. Actually, it's kind of 2. You're not having to trace all of these and then cut each individual one out and then go back and seam it. So it's a little bit faster to do it this way. So like I said, I starched everything before I started so that it's nice and stiff. I also cut out a 6 1/4 inches square, and then you cut it across the diagonal twice. Starch that before you cut it all out. And you've got 4 4-inch squares, and that's going to be the corners of your block. Okay, so I've got everything cut apart. I pressed my seam to the dark, and then I pressed it open. so that it's nice and open. You need this seam open for this block. Then you're going to go around and you need to mark your beginning where your seam lines intersect. I just use a ruler, lined it up with a 1/4 inch, put a little tick mark where the 1/4 inches would be, and you just keep turning it and go all the way around your units, marking this, even down here on the seam allowance where you've already stitched, because you want to know where that point is also. So I mark that and go all the way around my units, marking X's. Do that on all of your pieces. So you'll have all of your pieces done, and you also need to mark it on your triangles and your squares. So you're going to mark your X's because you're going to use that to help put the block together. Now after you've got everything marked, then you can come over here and you're going to attach and make 2 halves on your star points. So to do that, you've got your X that's marked. You're going to line up down here at the bottom where your seam is, and you can match your points that are there and just put a pin there to help hold it. And then up here at the top, you're also going to match that. Now that X that you marked, that is your beginning and your ending stitching. So when you start, you're going to put your needle in at the intersection here on the X. You're going to put your needle in, and you're going to back stitch a little bit or take tiny stitches there before you get larger. But you're going to start at the X here. You do not want to stitch at all into the seam allowance, because when you go to add the other pieces, if you have something there that's in the way, you're going to have to take it out. So start at where the X intersects and stitch down along the seam line. You are going to stop in the seam that you originally made when we pieced that strip together. So stitch from there to start on the outside edge there and stitch down to the center point. Take a few back stitches and then go forward. And of course it says I'm running out of bobbin thread. Just double check, make sure that you've got it nice and smooth here, that you've got everything all matched up. And remember, you're stopping at the intersection. If you need to get your stiletto, grab that to help. Take a few stitches, back stitches or small stitches there to help hold that, because we'll be using that here when we're kind of opening it up. And we don't want our stitches to pull out. You did have to pop the stitches up here at the top of your star. You pop 2 or 3 stitches there because you've got to have that open in order to stitch your squares and your triangles on. So just open up the seam, and then you're going to do that on both halves, and then you're going to match your halves and put them together. You've got all your little points out here. You can use those to help match everything up. Make sure that you've got your intersections there for your seam all lined up, and pin this. You're going to be stitching from the center out to each side. So start stitching in the center. You're going to put your needle down in the seam where you had marked an X. You're going to put your needle down there and you're going to stitch 1/4 inch out, and you're going to stop at the X. I'm going to take just a little back stitch. And you're going to stop at your X and take some back stitches there or small stitches to help hold that. And then flip it over and do the other side, because you're going from the center to the outside edge. Take some back stitches when you get to the end. Okay, so then on this you would also press your seams open. Okay, so I've got my star made. I'm ready to start putting in my triangles. So to do that, you're going to lay it down with your star facing up, and you're going to lay the triangle where it needs to be, and then you're going to fold it to the right. Hold that in place. Match up your edges there, kind of hold that in place, because that needs to be on the bottom when you sew. Now what you're working on now is an outside edge, so you will start sewing from the outside. And just put it down. Sew, and I would do a couple of back stitches to help hold it, or small stitches. Stitch from the outside to the center. Make sure that your seam stays down. You want to stop with your needle down in the center of the seam. Raise your presser foot up, leave the needle down, and reach up underneath the star and grab the triangle and pull it toward the front. You're also going to be pivoting the star to the back, so that you're changing which section of the star that you're sewing on now. And just smooth all of that back out. It does make a little bit of a pucker, so you reach here at the back to work that out. You can tug on it a little bit. I have to sometimes grab the stiletto or something to help get that back over where it's supposed to be. And your pucker is right over here on the left side, and you can feel it there when you reach up. So just get everything back to the right, matching your raw edges, and then put your presser foot back down. And then you're going to sew all the way to the outside edge again, because you're going to the outside edge. Back stitch it. You've got a nice little intersection there. And then you're going to put all of your triangles in. After you get all the triangles in, then you're going to come back and you're going to put the squares in. And it's the same way. On the back, you're pressing. You've got where you had the seams pressed open. The points on the triangles and the squares will fit down into that. And you're going to be pressing your seams to the star fabric. And we'll stitch this up and show you the completed block. Okay, I've got my block all finished. It came out pretty good. Got nice points and intersections where all that happened.